All right, so it's going to be a tips and tricks video for you guys. If you're new to Swarm, maybe you know some of these tips already, but it's going to be every tip I really thunk of from beginner to advanced. Maybe you'll learn something in your quest to beat Aatrox. First tip, try to focus guns at the start. Up to 3 guns and then you start doing your passives. Basically, this is kind of a rule I like to do because you want immediate power. So if you're just getting passives and you're upgrading all your passives first before you're getting any sort of guns, you're going to be relatively weak and you only have your auto attack basic gun available. So that's why I don't like when people upgrade their passives over their guns first. But of course you don't want to go to 4 or 5 guns because you want to be kind of more adaptable. Like you're not going to get your favorite guns with your certain build every single game. You kind of have to adapt. So that's what I like to do with my 4th and 5th gun based on whatever passives I get. Generally the rule is that guns are better than getting your passives fully upgraded. In fact, you want to rush an evolve gun, so try and do that. Next tip I have is don't try and hard force builds unless you literally have 5 rerolls, and yes you can, but oftentimes you might run into a brick wall having 0 rolls and you'll have kind of an awful build. Like I don't actually like to use my rerolls up until maybe I'm level 15 and I can figure out what kind of build I'm going, because early game I'm not sure what I'm really going until the game gives me what it wants to give me, right? Of course, unless you're trying for a specific build and then you're just FFing if you don't get it, then that's fine too. But you'll want rerolls to absolutely roll for something that suits your build. Don't want to use it just to like find a specific build that you want to go that you saw on someone's website or something, or YouTube video. All your guns say what they scale with in gray when you hover over them. Now, for some reason, a lot of people actually don't know about this, and so I'm here to tell you that yes, they do scale with whatever you hover over them. Your abilities don't. Some of them actually do. Like Riven's passive scales with hit point and duration, and her E stun duration scales with duration as well as her R duration. Aurora's E also scales with duration and her R scales with duration too. But some champions just don't even have that. Like Alawi's E, for instance, actually does scale with crit, but her tentacles don't even have any crit chance in them. So it's a bit weird. And yes, like I don't know why they don't update the tooltips for the skills, but it's just how it is. So I like just focus on whatever my guns scale with, which is usually damage, crit chance, and ability haste. So usually with a champion, the best build, and maybe it's not the best build, but it's an optimal build. If you actually don't know how to build your champion, just go usually whatever their auto attack gun is. For instance, Jinx scales with projectile count, ability haste, damage, crit chance. So that's usually what passes I will go. But like I'm not going max health on Jinx, if that makes sense. Maybe there's a cool interaction with static sword, but I will usually always go a build which helps my main weapon. There are of course interesting builds out there that actually do work and are probably better, but this is kind of if you don't really know what you're doing. This is step 1 of figuring out a decent build. When in hard mode, try to focus on gold, especially the quests to prepare for extreme mode. I would say if you want to be time efficient, you should concentrate on quests that give you gold, as well as augments that give you gold, like the death and taxes. This way you can save time and you won't have to grind a little bit before going to extreme mode, because you'll be extremely stat checked when you enter it from hard mode if you're kind of rushing the game. Armor is one of the best passes in the game, as well as ice armor. It nullifies damage when it's evolved and stuns everyone around you. So you want to go these two usually when you see it, especially if you're on solo. Armor also reduces damage, so instead of getting 1 shot, maybe you'll get 2 shot. And of course, a lot of champions do have shield, so the shield doesn't usually scale with hit point unless you're Leona. So if you can do math, you kind of get it. Like armor is an efficient stat in this game. Carries should always look for these augments: damage, crit, ability haste, and projectile count. Now obviously Riven is an exception to go area size, movement speed, duration, and max hit point. But usually you want to look for those 3 augments: damage, crit, ability haste. Most carries do scale with those 3 things, as well as every champion in the game. If you ever see the augment called Card Collector on your first Yumi quest augment, it is a must take on any champion that you get. This can go up to like 80% at one game because you kill so many elites and mini bosses. I'm pretty sure they drop around like maybe like 20 cards around in one game. But obviously first augment, even second augment is good. Get around like, if it's above 30%, It's really valuable and you don't get any diminishing effects. Champions that grant shield and vulnerability are usually the best champions in the game, so that's why I usually put Yasuo very high on the tier list. These champions also usually come with some sort of high damage and are very squishy and are able to dodge an insane amount of damage on extreme, so that's why I usually pick these champions over others. They're usually high in DPS. So if you guys don't know, picking up cards is the only way to evolve your guns. And a lot of people will actually pick up cards randomly. And I think that's fine up until about 10 to 11 minutes. This is where you should be a little bit conservative. So the best way I see it is pick up cards as you see please, you know, and don't worry about it until about 10 to 11 minutes. Once you're around 10 to 11 minutes, you should save a decent amount of cards on the ground pertaining to how much guns you have left to evolve. So if I have 2 guns that are level 5 and everything else is evolved, I'll leave 2 cards down always and I'll never go down below that, but everything after that I'll just be picking up. And of course, if you have teammates, it's a little confusing because everyone else needs to evolve their own thing, but you know, hopefully they are decent and aren't really griefing and picking passives over their guns. Early on, Leona is a busted champion just because she's naturally tanky. Her E gives her about 58 armor, or well, depends how much armor she has. So if you're having problems winning a game or keeping up with your friends, just play her. If you're having trouble deciding if you want to pick a passive over a gun, it's usually you want to pick your guns over your passive. Remember, guns are the ones that provide damage, while your passives are the ones that strengthen your damage and can be looked as multipliers rather than addition, which means that guns are additional damage flat, while your passives are multipliers. That makes sense. When a certain Yuumi quest or a Belveth is coming up, be sure to hold your cooldowns before it, such as your ultimate. You won't have enough power so that you can be able to complete it and get your quest done. Otherwise, you're going to have to be relying on your base damage and just stat checking everyone when the quest is up. Champions who are usually good at destroying elite single target monsters are the best champions in the game because bosses. You see, at one point, every champion gets very stat checky to the point where they can clear a large area of monsters, but some champions do have trouble with taking down bosses. So usually those champions aren't that good unless they have very large single target DPS, or for some reason her name is Riven and just has a bunch of damage and crits for like 6,000 to 12,000. Quests are unlocked after beating Normal mode. Remember to check the character's story quest as they have new Yuumi augments in there. But remember, I didn't notice for the longest time, but basically you have to do the character quests in order, and that's the only way to do them. You can't really do them in random. It has to be from top to bottom. And one of the quests at the end has like no character involved and just says win. Well, it's a tooltip error, and you have to win with Leona. It's the one quest before playing Seraphine to unlock, I think it's called Celebration. Basically though, if you ever come across a quest that just says win and it doesn't list a champion, that quest is probably with Leona. Now, if you ever press the O button on your keyboard, it brings up the display permanently. Like, you know, instead of pressing tab, you just have it on permanently. So it's kind of nice if you want to not hold tab anymore. Best way to farm gold is to do circles around the map to farm boxes, and usually Riven is the best at this, as well as Jinx, but I'd recommend Riven because she gets a shield and gets really stat checky, and do it on map 3 hard mode if you're stuck on hard and you can't do extreme yet. If you guys didn't know, Yasuo's E can dash over walls, and it also gives invulnerability for a slight second. It is actually what makes Yasuo able to get out of sticky situations, and that's why he's the best. And he also just scales with crit. So I know there's no icons, I think, that you get with Anima Squad, or I guess if you have the pass then maybe, but you get a title, an exclusive title if you beat Aatrox on extreme with every champion. You probably already know this, but I might as well add it here just in case. In this game, ability haste scales diminishing, so once you get a lot of ability haste, it starts to be not as efficient since it's the same as it is in League of Legends. You can literally hover it up in the tooltip and then see how much cooldown reduction you're actually getting. And you'll notice after like 100, it starts to be not as good. Around like 75 to 100 is nice, and obviously even more abilities is good, but it does diminish. So once you get 500 abilities, which is the cap, it does look really cool if you can ever get it there. But you just remember, if you choose between like crit chance, damage, or ability haste, and you already have 300 ability haste, I mean, is really 10 more ability haste going to be good? 310 versus a little bit more damage or crit chance? Probably not. Try to upgrade the gold XP upgrades first. They are better for you to scale to extreme. If you guys didn't know, those are the best, right? You always want gold. You always want to be farming gold, so you don't have to be wasting time and repeating the same stages over and over, unless you want to do that. But to be efficient with your time, you want to always just max out gold first. And then you'd want to upgrade damage. Yeah, it's everyone loves damage, right? It's really efficient stat. Usually a general rule to be efficient in Swarm is you want to rack up XP as fast as possible, and then try to evolve any gun ASAP. Once you evolve that gun, it's like a 3x power spike you get, and then your early game, mid game will be easier than said than done. If you're kind of confused on what gun to evolve first, and you have the option to choose to evolve all of them at the same time, I guess, the best gun usually is going to be the base gun you start off with. So if your Jink is Meow Meow gun and etc., try to always evolve your primary gun. Time mode duration is the worst passive ever, but then I actually recently found out that it actually does work on a lot of things you probably would imagine if you thought about it just a bit. It does work with like increasing duration of your ultimate and stuff like that, but I mean the weapons that it evolves from, like Yumi and Tibbers, aren't that good, so it's still kind of bad in a way unless your champion can actually abuse it somehow. So if you want to go AFK and just farm gold and like matchmaking an island, honestly the best champion to pick from what I found is obviously going to be Alawi. She farms gold, isn't a hindrance when you're going AFK, and spawns tentacles, so pick her if you want to go AFK. XP passive is based on who has it, so only one person should be the XP slave and pick up everything from, such as the Belveth quest. Not everyone gets the XP bonus, right? Field tab, that's how much XP you're getting when you pick up XP in the bottom left corner. So usually what we would do if you're in a 4-man stack is play someone like Aurora or anyone who can get 50% XP, and then he's the one to pick up every single XP on the floor and the one to be picking up everything on the Belveth quest. It could be maybe changed on live servers, but at least that's what it was like on PvE, and I'm not sure why they would have changed it. I mean, it wouldn't make sense that, like, let's say your whole team gets XP. I'm pretty sure that's like a 200% XP bonus, so it makes sense why it's kind of designed like this. Because otherwise, you could probably get to level 60 just by 4 stacking, and it'd be too OP. Try to do quests while grinding hard mode. These give gold and extra augments, and yeah, I mean, it's a really efficient way while trying to get anima power or all your upgrades done to get it done faster. I didn't do quests because I thought I was bugged the whole time, but it turns out you have to do it in a mortar. I know it's stupid and it doesn't really tell you, but that's just how it works. So if you guys didn't know, projectile count actually only scales at level 1, 3, and 5. So if you have to choose between getting projectile count to level 2 versus like damage to level 2 or ability haste, probably want to pick a damage or ability haste over projectile count, because you actually get absolutely nothing at level 2 and 4, and it's kind of like a 1 point wonder. So I usually like to max it last, and usually, unless you're trying to have fun, then you would max it out first and have a bunch of projectiles everywhere. Oh yeah, if you ever see the ramming runner augment, always take it. It doesn't matter who you are, you already have movement speed from anima power and as well as your upgrades. So even though you're not getting, you don't think you're getting like in-game movement speed and it's not giving you damage, this will always give you like 100 to 200% because of your upgrades. It's OP. And that's it. That's all my tips I have for you guys. Maybe I'll make another one, but we'll see. We have a little bit more content for Swarm, such as no damage challenge or no move challenge, take 0 damage, you know, and then will be it. You know, we'll do Swarm Conqueror, get that done, and then we're probably gonna do a few more challenges maybe, and even maybe try the original Vampire Survivors. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time.